major life updates in terms of things, right? We ended up missing our flight to Bombay. We were supposed to get here 2 hours ago, and then I listened to my mom. Ended up missing my flight, and now we're here 2 hours later, and we were supposed to do a little something fun, which entirely got compromised because of the entire fuck up over here. I'm crossing my fingers to see if I can still make this happen. Now, here's the gist. My boy Karan's going into the octagon for the 4th time in the last 1 year, and this time around he's going to be flying out to Guwahati for BKFC. And unfortunately that means in the 4 days that I'm here in Bombay for, I'm not going to get to meet him. I'm not going to get to spend time with him. We're racing against time to go meet him. So it's currently 4 o'clock. He's got a flight out by 8:20, which means he's probably got to leave for the airport by 6:30, which probably leaves us about an hour, hour and a half, assuming he's got his ass all the way here to Bombay from Pune. We're yet to see if that's going to happen. We're going to see if he can squeeze a little podcast sesh, an impromptu podcast sesh with his coach, the one and only Jitendra Khare. I've been following this man for a while, and holy shit, if I lived in Bombay, would have loved to train at this gym. But we'll see how that works out. Thank you so much for doing this with me, sir. I really appreciate you having me here. And I know it's a very tight timeline over here. So the people that are watching over here, you want to give them a little context as to why things are super high stakes right now?
We have 5 of our guys fighting in Bidang Fighting Championship. They have their weigh-ins tomorrow at 3 p.m. and they are fighting day after in Assam, in Guwahati, Assam. And we are about to fly to Assam in another 2 hours. So we'll be heading to the airport and flying out.
Coach, why don't you tell us a little more about who's going to be on the card fighting from your team and from Team Relentless?
So we have Rehan. Rehan trains in Hong Kong and all with Versus and with Team Relentless when he's in India. Okay. So he's representing Team Relentless and Versus Hong Kong. On the main event, he's fighting a Russian prospect. We have Suyash Jadhav, who's fighting the co-main event. Suyash trains out of Team Relentless and Fit and Fight Club in Navi Mumbai. So he's been a very old student for a very close friend of mine, Mr. Sanjeevan Padwal, and has been training with us for a very long time as well. So he's in the co-main event. Then we have one of our Afghani boys, Azim. His name is Avizim Mukhalis. He's fighting one of the Wushu superstars, Pawan Kumar, his name is.
Wushu superstars? What's
So he's an Asian medalist in Wushu for India. So he's like a very big name in Wushu. Pawan, his name Pawan Kumar, and he's making his MMA debut. He's fighting Azim. And we have obviously Karan fighting Mridul Saikia, the local boy. And we have on the undercard we have Harsh Pandya, who was initially supposed to take on Aman Gusain, but is now fighting Atharva Deshmukh. Harsh is actually literally just come back from the Gamma World Championship where he won a bronze medal.
Awesome.
And he's taken 2 days off and he's going to go back into the cage on Sunday.
Is that even allowed? Isn't there normally like a little
No, so he was cleared by the doctors and there was no medical suspension, so there was no injuries, no shots taken to his head. So he's perfectly fine to fight. The doctors have cleared him and he's good.
And the last time I saw you involved in the whole space was also as someone in the officiating space, right?
Yeah.
So are you involved in this competition in that capacity as well, or are you going in purely as a coach leading your team?
For this competition, I'm just going as a coach in a corner for my team.
And I'm assuming you've done this a couple hundred times, but is there anything different about this time? Are there other things going through your head and talking through that?
So it's like literally the final 4 matches on the card. So I think I have to just sit in the corner and these guys are going to just keep walking in kind of a thing. So yeah, but it's fun. It's a huge honor to have all our boys, fighting on this card. And it's good for the team. The more the guys, everybody's morale stays up. They help each other with the warm up. And, so that's the good part.
Where do you think we were, say, 3 years ago? Where do you think we are now as a country when it comes to embracing MMA as a sport?
So I think I started Team Relentless and Evolution Gym in 2009. So, I mean, yeah, in the last 3 years, it's grown, I think, threefolds. And so when I look back in 2009, I still remember I started the gym in December 2009, and it took me close to 8 or 9 months to get to 10 members
Jeez.
doing MMA. Yeah. So compared to that today, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's just phenomenal. I don't think I can even put a number to it. It's phenomenal. But yeah, I think even as recent as 2020 to now, obviously there's a huge growth. With people like Anshul Jubli now getting into UFC, and people like Vikas who fought in PFL, and other names that are coming up and fighting big promotions. We've had a couple of our boys fight the one Friday night.
Oh,
And
nice.
so all these things happening, it's obviously becoming mainstream slowly, and I think there's a huge interest. We have a long way to go because I mean, let's be really honest, it's like even the boys fighting tomorrow, it's not like they're getting paid huge amounts, but
Right.
obviously it's it's a stepping stone for these guys also to a bigger promotion. And so I think there's a huge growth still left, but we've come a long
100%.
way. We've come a long way.
when it comes to jiu-jitsu. What's the Indian turnout like on that end? Do you normally see people coming into your gym right now to train for competitions that are also within a single discipline like Muay Thai and boxing?
So
and
we had
kickboxing?
one of our boys compete at the. He had won the ADCC Singapore. He had won the ADC Singapore Pro Division in -99, and he just fought the ADCC trials. I mean, he did lose. I mean, he lost in that, but it was a huge experience for him, and I think that's only motivated him to compete further. So I'm sure he's looking forward to competing again at the ADCC. So we have a lot of our guys, who are doing a lot of BJJ and submission wrestling as well, a lot of competitions. Even locally, we have Vishnu, who had won the National Strangle event. We had a couple of our guys fight Leverage. We had two of them reach the semi-finals of Leverage. So yeah, there's a lot of interest in BJJ. There's a lot of interest in submission wrestling. Muay Thai, I think, is one of those combat sports which is growing a lot in India. I mean, if you follow Locker Room, which I think is one of the leading blog, every week you'll see guys like Ashish and Ningu Goy and these guys that are now training and staying in Muay Thai in Thailand,
Gotcha.
winning a lot. Like I think we have a couple of guys that have won the Raja Dharma belt, and so yeah, I think Muay Thai also is another sport which is seen a huge growth in India. I think a lot of talent out there, and a lot of these guys are going out and proving themselves.
You mentioned that these competitions are still a stepping stone for a lot of our Indian fighters. How do we get more money to flow into combat sports, especially in MMA, so that our fighters get paid better, so that there's better so that there's better training infrastructure, and to also make sure that these guys are fairly compensated in a sport where you never know if that particular fight might be their last?
So I think the biggest, obviously, the issue in India is sponsorships.
Gotcha.
I mean, I'm sure like we as Gamma India work with a lot of promoters, and they all face one challenge, which is sponsorships. What happens is it's simple. If I'm running an event today, I get big sponsorships. I can, push that benefits down to the fighters. Now, if my sponsorships aren't big, or I am not getting that kind of viewership or that kind of ticket sales. So obviously the ultimate money that's reaching the fighters isn't that big. So I guess, obviously the answer to everything is sponsorship. I mean, even if you look at cricket today, or one of these, like you have your Kabaddi League and all these leagues, because they have huge sponsors backing them up, and they have, they've got those television rights and stuff like that. I guess that's the answer. I'm not really sure. That obviously a lot of these sports have government backing as well.
Got it.
Like, I know cricket is a non-Olympic sport, but if you look at kabaddi, you look at other badminton leagues, hockey leagues, these have government fundings. Whereas MMA right now in India, we are still struggling to get MMA recognized as a sport itself by the government. So, you know, I think that in itself could add a huge boost to getting sponsorships or to, you know, approaching corporates, because right now MMA is seen as entertainment category and not as a sports category.
Okay. And you know, you actually brought me right on to my next question. What is it? What are the steps involved in actually making sure that happens? How does that problem eventually end up getting solved?
So I guess you know, today, I mean, we are talking to a lot of government sports agencies. Like I guess tying up with from the grassroots, you know, tying up with agencies like your school games federation, university games, college games, to police games. You know, then eventually we need to get recognized or get in demo into the national games. So this is the step where I mean, these are the steps that are required to get that government recognition or government funding into the sport.
So it needs to start right down from a school level.
Always.
The same way we probably have it for cricket and other sports, where you say that, okay,
I mean,
inter-school
my
Khelo.
son does judo. So you have district sports association, you have Mumbai School Sports Association, then you have your district sports state championships, then you have zonal championships, you have national championships. So that's the kind of, you know, level of I would say penetration those sports have, you know, into the grassroots. So like, I think you need to win, for example, DSO zonal to be able to compete for the DSO you know, state. Once you win that, then you get qualified to play even, you know, a national game. Or you have CBSE zonals,
right,
which is a qualification to CBSE nationals. So I mean, that's the kind of I would say penetration that these kind of sports have, and that's why the reach. Like, you go to any judo you know, tournament which happens, I think at zonal level, city level, I would say, you have upwards of 500 students competing.
Shit. Okay.
So that's the kind of reach that we need to make.
But then isn't that very difficult to get at least for kids and whatnot? Because again, MMA, just given the dangers surrounding MMA, the damages it could have, maybe compared to boxing and kickboxing.
If you see youth MMA, like the way it is done under GAMA, the Global Association of Mixed Martial Arts, we are not allowed any strikes to the head. So it strikes to the body and all of grappling.
Okay.
So you can take down, you can work submissions, but there are no strikes to the head. I think that is way safer than most wushu and boxing fights that I've seen.
Got it.
Right. Plus, also, even if you see MMA, I have always said this and have said that it's much safer than your boxing and Muay Thai, because if you get hit to the head, you get knocked down, right? And you cannot defend yourself. The fight is stopped. Nobody is going to come, give a 10 count, give you a chance to stand up again, and then get knocked down again, get another count, and then when there is a third time a count, it's stopped. By then, I personally feel a lot of damage is already done.
Right.
Whereas here, the first time you get hit, you get knocked down. If the ref sees you cannot protect yourself, it's over, it's done. So yes, you're taking damage, but I mean, if most of the fights that you see in MMA, I'm sure if we start adding counts to it, those fights could go on longer as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But we don't do that. We just stop it and it's done.
You also brought up GAMA, the Global Association of Mixed Martial Arts, and you lead the association.
So
in India,
we have our own body that is affiliated to GAMA. It's called GAMA India. Yeah, currently I'm the president of GAMA India, and we've been working with promotions across India to put up events and, you know, try to promote events, especially in places where you know, MMA has not yet got that kind of reach. So this year we went to Arunachal. We did the first event in Arunachal in Itanagar. We've now done in Darjeeling. We've done in Gangtok. You know, so like that we did about 14 events last year in a year's time, and a lot of them in places where MMA was never done before. So, it was great. I mean, I think these are the steps that are required to be taken to get that kind of recognition in the country.
And what do you think separates us Indian fighters from those that are international? I'm asking this question because you mentioned this Russian guy who's going to be at the main event, right? And almost everyone's just shit scared of the Ogedovs and the Murmagedovs, whatever's, right? Like, and is there a different approach that they probably have to MMA that sort of sets them apart? Is it just the history and the heritage of the sport in their country?
I think a lot to do with their culture. If you see, most of these people have a fighting culture. They've grown up in an environment where combat sports like sambo and wrestling is something that is looked up to with great pride. Like, a sambo champion or a wrestling champion is hailed. Whereas if you see most of India, sports is not something which is, like, it's not culturally your first preference. Like, I'm sure all our parents would want us to be engineers and doctors rather than a sambo champion or a wrestling champion or a kickboxing champion. I mean, it's changing, but I believe that most of these guys, and for most of these people, I also feel that they've seen sports, and especially combat sports, as their ticket to a better life. So, they've dedicated their life to these sports much earlier on. Like, I'm sure most of these guys would either have done sambo at some point or wrestling at some point and tried to, move out of their city, or, using that sports platform, get that recognition to build a better life. So that's why I feel that, they tend to give that little bit extra when it comes to it.
Are they better compensated over there, do you think? Because I'm pretty sure sponsorship is an issue across mixed martial arts, right?
I don't think they would be better compensated, but I think, a lot of these places, what I've seen is that they do have a better, for the lack of term, backing. Like, their community is backing them up, or, their local politicians are backing them up.
Got it. So they've kind of just got a little more to fight for, probably, like
True,
in this case. I mean, I know for a fact that I think Karan, being the dynamic guy and the charismatic guy that he is, has thankfully managed to rally a lot of support. And I think this is where there are a few parallels between MMA and pro wrestling, where if you're good on the mic and if you've got that entertainment factor, because at the end of the day, as great as MMA is, I also feel like it's the entertainment that sells. And do you think that plays a degree of importance over here as well, even within these regional championships? Like, if it's produced in a way where you also look at the entertainment side of it, where if you've got, these press conferences where people talk a little shit to each other, right? Do you think we're missing a little bit of that? Because I don't see a whole lot of that within the Asian MMA Federation.
See, again, when you look at it, Asians culturally, we are not the kind of people that trash talk.
Right.
I mean, most that you can make out that it looks very fake. They're putting up an act. These are your wannabe Conor McGregors and stuff.
Right.
But at the end of the day, these are not. I mean, if you see, Americans are usually, they are louder. It's how they are. I mean, you have people like Conor McGregor, who is naturally who he is. He's an Irish. He's naturally who he is. So if you're naturally like that, it's fine. But if you aren't and you're putting up an act, it's very easy to see through that.
And do people do that over here? Have people tried?
Oh yeah, everybody wants to be a Conor McGregor these days. So yeah, it's very evident.
Do you train people who come in, casually just to, learn MMA, or do you strictly train for people who want to compete?
Not really. We train all kinds of people. Fortunately, in our gym, what has happened is, because we've got a lot of guys that fight training here, people that come to train casually also land up fighting at times, or saying that at least I'll do one amateur fight.
Right.
And so it is like that. I mean, believe me, it's like that for every beginner. You're going to get thrown around a lot. You're going to get tapped out a lot. I mean, you're at the right gym if that's happening. Because that's the journey. I mean, I think even till date, I think if you talk to my fight team, that's the story of everyone. It's like they say, some days you're the nail, some days you're the hammer. And more often than not, you're the nail. And that's always going to be part of your journey. I mean, one thing that I've always said MMA or Jiu-Jitsu teaches you is, humility, and that's how you learn it. You could talk anything, you could do anything, you could wear any color belt. But when you step on the mat, the truth comes out, right? And that's what it is. It's a good reality check also. Keeps you sane, keeps your ego in check.
Oh yeah, and in terms of like experimenting with different martial arts, so a friend of mine told me that like you spend a couple of weeks or a couple of months first trying different things, but he also then said stick to doing one for a long period of time, and then
Always,
then if you want to pivot, you can jump into Muay Thai later.
Yeah, always.
What are your 2 cents on that as a coach?
So always. So I think most of the guys that fight for me have had their background in one martial arts. So we've got a couple of guys who were initially wrestlers. We've got a couple of guys who are wushu players. We've got guys who are boxers. And they've built their base in that, and now they are like you said, pivoting off that. They're learning jiu-jitsu, or if it's a guy who's a wrestler, is learning how to strike. I think that helps a big deal, because you'll always have your go-to game and then you'll have a fallback plan. So I think that does help a lot.
What's your best advice to someone who's starting off? How do you find your niche? Like I know you've got to try different things, right? But how do you decide your aptitude? Like how do you know which one? Because you're going to get your ass beat in all of them when you first try doing it.
So I think initially when you start for a year at least, don't think, go train. Because I think people, I find it so funny when you hear, like I was in one of the tournaments recently and they announced this guy is a BJJ guy. A guy is not even a blue belt. I mean, really, is he a BJJ guy? I mean, it's just because you've trained BJJ doesn't make you a BJJ guy.
Right.
Just because you've trained Muay Thai doesn't make you a Muay Thai specialist. But what I'm trying to say is that you need to go practice. If you want to do MMA and have never had one formal discipline, you start in all. You'll always find that you're a natural at something, or your body is naturally adapting to something, which becomes your go-to. Like you might be better at grappling than striking, or striking might be your comfort zone, and that becomes your strength, whereas you keep working on your weakness. But I wouldn't say that within the first year you decide, all right, this is what I'm going to do, because just too early. I think it's just too early to decide I'm a specialist in something.
So a wrestler and a boxer meet in a street fight, who wins?
What level? You're talking about an Olympic level boxer and an
Olympic level wrestler?
Wrestler. But
why the advantage?
I think it's
wrestling?
the mindset. It's the mindset. Also, I personally believe wrestling is one of the hardest sports. If you can win at wrestling, you can win at most things in life.
Okay.
But I think
Could
there's
you elaborate
another
on that?
saying. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you know who Dan Gable is. Dan Gable is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, and he once said that if you've wrestled, everything in life is easy. It's difficult. I mean, it's tough to wrestle. Believe me, it's tough to wrestle. Day after day, getting into that training room, getting your ass beat, doing the same grind over and over again, doing it 100%. Like you could shadow box, you could technical spar, but you can't technical wrestle. You have to go 100%. Yeah. Because if you have a guy who's resisting and you need to take that guy down, you have to go 100%. Right? You could do touch sparring, but there's no touch wrestling. It's wrestling. You have to pick up a guy and put him down, period. So I think it's just something that is way more difficult physically, breaks you mentally. The whole physicality of wrestling tends to break you mentally, and to just keep going with that gives you a very different mindset. It's a very different mindset.
And are there very shared parallels between wrestling and jiu-jitsu as well?
Again, I think jiu-jitsu is still easier. I'm not saying easier in the sense the physicality is definitely much more in wrestling. Jiu-jitsu, yeah, I mean, it's part of the grappling sport. So you would have, takedowns and stuff. But I truly believe they're two separate games. Like if I pin you in wrestling, it's over. But jiu-jitsu doesn't stop there. You have to keep going, positional dominance, submissions.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the physicality of wrestling adds layers to your mindset that other sports don't.
What's your vision for Team Relentless at the moment? Where do you see things going in the next year, 2 years? What do you want?
I think with Team Relentless, I've always said this, the goal is to be one of the top teams in the world, not just India, not just Asia. It's like that saying, right? The biggest fear is that you dream big and you don't dream big and achieve it. So I don't want to say I want to be the best team in India or Asia. I mean, I want to get out there, challenge bigger fighters, better fighters.
What are the steps involved in getting there? Okay.
So we are getting there slowly. We are fighting, bigger names. We are fighting, better fighters. Like I said, we've had a guy fight PFL. We've had guys fight one championship. The results have been mixed, but we are getting there. We are getting out there. I think we are on the right track. Slowly but surely, we'll get there.
Any plans on coming to Dubai? I totally want to see
one of our guys fought in Dubai. On
the Middle East Fighting Championship?
No, he fought in the MMA Global Series in Dubai.
Okay.
It happened, I think, 3 or 4 months back.
Okay.
We were in Dubai. Fahad fought there. Had a very close split decision loss, but it was a great fight. And so I think we should be back in Jan or Feb in Dubai.
Oh, so there's so much potential there as well. Like it's slowly becoming a hub where a lot of people are coming to train. Yeah. And I've been trying to see what little bit I can do there because I'm based off of there, and I know I want to try and do something over there, and I want to complement all the content creation with, a fair bit of practice as well. And I feel like it's had such a positive impact.
So we've had one of the Indian guys, Mr. Bhupesh Kamble, who owns AB Fitness in Dubai, and
right.
He's the one partnered up with MMA series and bought MMA series to India, to Russia. Dubai, from Russia to Dubai.
Oh shit! Okay, I think that's the event you're talking about because he was promoting it from his gym. Okay, cool. Yes. Which is very ironic because AB Fitness over there technically only does a lot of boxing classes and does
he's starting. He used to be a boxer and an MMA fighter in India. But now he's started in Dubai and he's promoting a lot of MMA in Dubai. So we hope to be back on his card soon.
Oh, you know what? I think the next person to chat with in Dubai is Mr. Bhupesh Kamble and see where things go.
Sure, you should.
But what are your thoughts going into Assam today? On a final note.
I mean, it's going to be interesting fights. Obviously, we hope to come back with 5-0. But the boys are ready. We're good to go. We're just about to leave for the airport and get the flight.
Thank you so much for taking the time out and just having this chat with me. I really wish Karan was here because a little something we wanted to do last time was do a little training session. I really wanted to jump in a training session with him. And that time I'd just gotten these tattoos. I couldn't train. It was the worst reason to not fight. And then...
if you're around today, 8 o'clock, there's a class. Please come and train. Be here, train. Aditya will be here. Siddharth will be here. Come and train. These guys will be here. Please, feel free. We are here. I mean, we are here 7 days a week, man. Whenever you're down here, come down.
Thank you very much, sir. This is an absolute pleasure. Best of luck.
And thank you for having me on your podcast.